Christopher Odigbo with host Vicki Young, followed by lunch at the event center located at 2nd in Crown Point Avenue. You must register at www.blackfathersomaha.com for a free t-shirt and lunch. Join us for the free Black Fathers March and Luncheon, July 25th, 2026, 10 a.m. at 30th and Lake Street, followed by a free lunch. Black Fathers Omaha are proud supporters of KOWN 95.7, The Boss.
All right, welcome back to the Real Estate Show with Carl Griffin, Realtor. I'm your host. I am Carl Griffin, and I'm a realtor with BHHS, Ambassador Real Estate, and I'm on a team called MRG Realty Group. BHHS is Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate. We are here weekly. Last week we took a week off, but the show is a weekly show, Saturday on 95.7, The Boss, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So we're going to get your morning started into the afternoon. On Saturday, we're going to have a little discussion about real estate. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll play some music throughout the show. We'll have some format, so we're going to get it going here. Again, Carl Griffin, I'm a realtor with BHHS AMB. If you or anyone you know needs any assistance with real estate, and that's with selling, buying, investing, or even just having discussions about it, feel free to reach out to me at 402-415-1333. And as far as the show goes, this is the show where we talk about everything and all things that involve real estate. Again, that is whether we're talking about selling homes, we're talking about buying, we talk about investing, credit, home ownership, things that are important as far as building equity, home design. We'll get into architecture, construction, landscaping, pavement, those kind of things. We do it all here. We talk about all kinds of things on that involve real estate. We also touch on real life issues as they involve, as they relate to property and real estate, because housing decisions impact everyday life. Everywhere we are living, no matter who we are, someone is paying for us to live in that place. When we're out shopping, when we're driving, all of that is real estate, whether we intentionally think about it or not. And that is part of the goal for the show, is to be more intentional, discussing real estate topics, real estate terms, and most importantly, equity and building wealth throughout our community. So just to give those that are not frequent listeners of the show, just to give you an idea of what we're doing here. For me, the idea came to me, and I want to just thank William King for the platform, the opportunity to talk to the community about real estate. Again, this is one of my passions, something I have a good level of interest and knowledge about, and I want to share it. And most importantly, I want to thank him for the chance to play music on the show, because that's also another passion of mine. So I get to DJ a little bit and share some of the music that I love and listen to with the audience. That being said, when we did decide to do the show, I had to set some goals out. What do I want to accomplish? And so the goals for me would be to educate, learn something I really enjoy is teaching. And so I get to educate people on things that involve real estate. That's one of the things I've learned, throughout the time that I've been a realtor, is that those are some of the times that I find enjoyment in the work that I do, is being able to teach people about things that they don't know, and also being able to learn from people that may have knowledge and information that I haven't, that I don't have. So I've learned quite a lot from a lot of good people, from a lot of good other agents and team leaders from MRG Realty Group, Berkshire Hathaway, and brokers, and a lot of people along the way. So we want to educate, want to communicate with the people, let you know that I'm here. There, you have a realtor that's here for you if you need any help, if you have any questions. Again, that number is 402-415-1333. I want to inspire. There's a lot of young people who are looking out as far as maybe a career they're looking for, or they need some assistance getting started, or just understanding what they need to do. And sometimes, I want to motivate people that are maybe thinking about becoming homeowners and may not understand what that path looks like. And then if I can give you some information and help you know that it's a path that is in front of you that you absolutely are able to take. So that'd be a good goal for mine. Growth through community connection is the best way to put that. This is you know by no means have I made it or gone big or anything. So I'm still trying to get new clients. I want new business. So if you know anyone, and I love to take referrals and help people and show them the way. Um, Obviously, I want to entertain because that's the music. That's where the music part comes in. So I hope you enjoy the selections that you hear. And of course, I'm always open to criticism. Uh, Constructive criticism is the best way to put it. But if there's things you want to improve the show, the thing that you want to hear every week, let me know, and we'll keep improving. This here is a little bit of a milestone. This is the 25th show. So if you haven't heard about the show, it's taken a while to get going. We started on Fridays, now we're on Saturdays, and things are picking up. So I'm getting the format down, getting things together as far as how we're breaking things down and what we're doing here and what we're talking about, and using my diaphragm, making sure that I can be heard, and getting the levels together and the setup. And so now we're kind of got a good path. We're trying to be consistent here and be here every week unless something changes, but we're definitely going to be here as long as the station will have me. So get used to Saturdays, 11 o'clock. You're going to hear some talk. We're going to have a real estate conversation. So feel free to join in, chime in, send in information, questions, so every week we end the show with a question. And last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, I asked, what's the biggest reason you've ever moved? So I wanted to hear those stories from you. I enjoy hearing stories because every move has its own reason, and every home has its own story. And so if you have any, if you want to chime in or send any messages here, you can, and I'll get those messages and answer those questions. Weekly, I ask this question, and anyone that feels free, anyone should feel free to answer, because I really want to share these stories with the community and let people know what do you love about owning a home, and then also what are some of the challenges to being a homeowner, because again, we want to share information. When I say we, I'm mainly talking about myself and the station, because they're allowing me to have this platform. So if you've also, the other follow up question weekly is, if you've decided not to purchase a home, what were your reasons? So I just wanted to be able to share that, because I've had some conversation with people over the years, even before I was in real estate, and people just were absolutely against purchasing a home here in America, and they just felt like it wasn't the right thing for them. And I want to be able to get more information on what that, why they made that decision. So that's the only reason I asked that. So that's the intro, and we'll get in that. As far as the show, just a quick rundown. Market update will come after this next first music selection, and we start with the intro, do a market update. We'll have a break that down segment. We break down a common real estate term, just to kind of help people understand it. A lot of times terms are thrown out, and people just seem, people that hear them or use them every day obviously know what they mean, but people that hear them sporadically or every other, ever so often, may not quite understand it. So that's what the break that down segment is going to be about. Main topic today is what happens after your offer is accepted. So we get into a little bit into the weeds about, once you've actually, you've already gone and looked at the home, you've put in the offer, you've got the offer accepted, and now we got to get to closing. So that's what that's all about. So also on the show, we'll have some spotlight segments and Q&A. Still going to keep promising those interviews, and they will be coming. So just be patient with that. But we'll be back after this first music choice. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show with Carl Griffin, Realtor. I am your host. I'm Carl Griffin. I'm a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate, and I'm on a team called MRG Realty Group. Um, Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you listening. That was Dave Hollister. Take Care of Home. That is my de facto theme song for this show. I like to play it because I think the topic is taking care of home is what we're talking about. Taking care of where you live, taking care of how we live. How we build equity in our home is important. It's a definite way to build wealth for ourselves and our um, generations that follow. It's a good start. It's not a quick hustle. Well, let me make sure that's clear. So it's something that you have to be, uh, really passionate about as far as what you want to do. You have to know a direction, and you have to be able to be prepared for that. So we like to take care of home on this show, and so you might hear that once a week on this station. I don't think the song will ever get old, and I always like to acknowledge that Dave Hollister is one of my favorites. Um, we'll get into the market update, and the rates on this information on the rates is always brought by Brad Dexter of Churchill Mortgage, who is the um, preferred lender for the MRG Realty Group team. Brad does a great job, um, getting people approved, letting people know where they stand if they aren't yet approved. And once you need anything as far as your pre-approval letter, your cost sheet, he's always available for us. He hasn't let me down in that way. And he's communicative, and he's knowledgeable. So I would say if you need any help with that, reach out to me, and I can get you connected. But he's Brad Dexter at Churchill Mortgage if you want to go directly to him, but I can definitely get you Brad's information. So that said, a quick update on rates. Brad tells me that the rates have moved up a little bit this week. So it's been, they have been hovering, but they've kind of jumped a little bit. So that's kind of, obviously that's how it goes. A lot of times when people are waiting, they're waiting on rates, but the rates don't always drop every time. And so you end up waiting a little longer. So, um, but they're not, they're not too high. We're kind of where we had been normally for a long, long time in this in this industry. So conventional loans are now generally around 6.75%. I think the last update said about 6.375. So that's a little jump as far as what your monthly payment is going to be. Um, while the FHA loans are closer to 6.5. That's kind of what I've been seeing, depending on the scenario. So these are averages. These are, based on certain criteria, but, that's kind of the range we're in. So even with that increase, rates are still very close to where they were this time last year. So we've continued to see the rates moving around within a range. So they're not collapsing, not skyrocketing. What's interesting is that the buyers aren't disappearing. Okay, so the rates went up, but the buyers are still out there looking for homes, finding homes, purchasing homes. I think there was a little bit of settling in the market where, because it is a big difference when you go from 3% to the 6 and 7s that we were at. We're closer to 7 and 8%. So dipping down to the sixes kind of stabilize things, let people know that, if you were purchasing a home before that 2020-21 period, these are the rates you were kind of consistently going to find. So it's not necessarily a terrible thing. It's just that, hey, something came along astronomically, historically great, and a lot of people took advantage, and some of us missed out, some of us got in, but these rates here are kind of stable within a certain range. So rates are a little bit better than they were last year, no matter what people are telling you. So a couple quick notes on Churchill Mortgage. I want to be sure to point out that one benefit I think is that Brad rarely, if ever, asks for your appraisal fees up front. So I think that's a good benefit to a buyer if I'm in the middle of a purchase. We'll talk about how that process goes today, but not having to pay that until closing costs can help you just to not have to put out that money, because you're already going to be putting out a little bit of money when you come, when you get under contract for your earnest deposit. If you're going to get an inspection, you're going to pay for that. And so, not having that fee up front, you're still going to pay for your appraisal. Okay. But I think that's a benefit. And another quick VA reminder is that VA buyers still have access to valuable benefits like 100% financing, which means no PMI, no down payment. And PMI is private mortgage insurance. So if you're under 20% equity in your home, if you've paid less than 20% down on it, then they're going to put a private mortgage insurance PMI payment on top of your mortgage. So you're going to pay just a little bit more. So Churchill Mortgage continues to waive lender fees on eligible VA loans. So that's another benefit for them. As far as the prices in the metro, I'd say they leveled off slightly compared to last year. Overall values are still holding steady. Not seeing major spikes. Not seeing crashes. I mean, we've seen some homes that may have been overpriced. I'd say you overshot, and they may have gone for less than what they asked for, but they're not going to, when the market isn't lowering in that area. So there's just more than one way to look at it. But overall, homes are taking a little longer than they were a year ago to sell, but well-positioned homes are still moving pretty fast, I should say. If you've got a home that's priced correctly, good condition, good location, and you put it out there, it's going to get some attention, and it can still possibly get competition and go over asking price. So we still see that. We've always seen that. We just had an influx of it at one point. That's for the days on the market. Let's say they're averaging around five days. So I'll say at one point it was 3, one point it was 10 to 12. And so now we're averaging around 5. So that's Douglas and Sarpy County combined. Inventory snapshot, inventory remains balanced overall, let's say. Buyers continue to have more options than they did a few years ago, which I think is a great thing for buyers. But inventory still varies. It depends on the area and the price range, okay? Because some areas you're going to see a limited amount of homes, depending on where you want to move to, depending on how much you've got, how much buying power you've got. You may have limited options, but at the same time, I've had some buying clients that have had numerous options. Seemed like too many options, because then you don't know what to choose from. But once you get that feeling of this is the one for me, that only usually comes with the one that is meant for you. So that never changes. So I would say some parts of the metro remain competitive. Others are seeing a little bit of more breathing room. One thing our local brokers are expecting is a little push from families. They try to get settled in before school starts, because before you know it, we're in August in a few weeks, and school's getting ready to start. So a lot of times people like to have that settled. We tend to see that this time of year every year, so it's not anything new. But there are more choices for buyers without an oversupply of homes. I'd say well-priced homes continue to attract the buyers. Another thing encouraging locally, I would say, is that June finished ahead of where we were last year, and July has started a little slower. And again, that isn't unusual after the 4th of July, but we'll be watching to see whether activity picks up as families continue to prepare for the school year. So that's the best way we can put that for right now. Again, we like to encourage home ownership on this show. Something I definitely encourage, and I always during the market update will give you some examples just to let you know that when you're renting, you're helping the owner pay down his a mortgage, and he's building equity. And ownership flips that script, so you become the one building equity instead of paying for someone else. So it's an example of that is that the average signed rents for a 3-bedroom in our metro are about $17.75 a month. That's what the data tells me. Okay, it's not something I made up, and I don't know, a lot of direct numbers, but it tracks for people I know that are renting. There was a big jump, and I would say 1775 is what they're telling me is the average. So that's over $21,000 for the year. Okay, and then 3 years, we're talking about 64,000. If you're renting that same place for 5 years, you're paying out 106,000 plus. I'll say so. That's money you're building with someone else's. You're building someone else's equity, not yours, and that's just the way. That's just reality of it. Um, so when you're ready to get into that position and get into that buying situation, let me know, and I'd be happy to help you. Give me a call or a text, 402-415-1333. Again, I'm Carl Griffin, Realtor with Berkshire Hathaway um, Home Services Ambassador Real Estate. So we've got stable prices, we've got balanced inventory, and rates that continue to move within a fairly consistent range. Okay. But once a buyer finally finds the right home and the seller says yes, what actually happens next? And today we'll walk through that process. But before we get into the next song, I want to do a segment called Break That Down. Okay. And it's a short, quick segment today. I want to break down a pre-approval versus a pre-qualification. So let's break that down for a second, because people often use these terms interchangeably. So it's a lot of times people say, they say they pre-approved and they're pre-qualified, and there's a difference as far as a seller receiving that offer with that letter. I can tell you there is a difference. So a pre-qualification is usually based on information you provide. So a pre-approval, it just goes a step further. So you're with the pre-qualification. I should say, you basically talk to the lender, you tell them what your situation is, and they say based on that, you got a pre-qualification. Now we need to verify some information. We got to because the pre-approval takes it a step further. So with that, your lender reviews the documentation, verifies much of your financial information. Neither one guarantees that you'll receive the loan. Okay, these are just pre-approval steps. But once the pre-approval gives both you and the seller greater confidence that you're ready to buy, because they have verified certain things. And then a competitive market, that confidence, it makes a real difference. So just know that if you're out there in the market, pre-approval takes it a step further. Pre-qualification can get you what you need to make an offer, but at the same time, if I'm a seller looking at that offer, pre-approval, I know it's gone a step further. I know the lenders verified that you have, what you're saying you have, and they'll still have to verify it through the underwriters and get you approved. But pre-approval is a step further than pre-qualification. That being said, let's go ahead and jump onto another song here, and let me decide what that's going to be and pick something random here. Be right back. Thank you. Wherever you go, I want to go there. Wherever you go, I'll kill your nightmare. I think of you too. I'm in this yellow. Hey, I'm talking to you alone. This ain't the background. I just care. Sometimes it's very clear. You keep on let you fall down. And did you hear what I said? Think that you're alone. You might be alone.
Sometimes need a shoulder. Don't get me wrong. You're a soldier. Let me get closer. You are the one. You ever think that you're here. You just be
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show with Carl Griffin, Realtor. That is the name of the show. I am the host of the show. My name is Carl Griffin. I'm a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Ambassador, and on a real estate team called MRG Realty Group. BHHS is Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate. For those that don't know, that was Emily Sandé. Love to help. I believe I'm going to say that. I'm going to pronounce that confidently now. But it's just a song that I think is. I think it's just a pretty song. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason about it. Something that came on the radio one day on my shuffle, I should say, and I added it to my playlist, and I like it. I hope you like it too. But at the same time, she's talking about loving to help, and that's why I'm here, because I love to help. So if anyone needs any help with anything involving real estate, please reach out to me at 402-415-1333. Feel free. Don't hesitate. And if I don't respond right away, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Carl Griffin, Realtor, BHHSAMB. That's how you can find me online. I'm on all the platforms that I can think of. So if there's anywhere I'm not, then I'll be there. You'll be able to find me. I'm not hard to find at all, but I'm here for you if you need anything. So we'll dive to the main topic here, which is what happens after your offer is accepted. For many buyers, getting that offer accepted, for many buyers, it feels like crossing the finish line. But in reality, it's the beginning of the next phase, because there's a process to get to closing. So let's talk about what typically happens between an offer accepted, an accepted offer, and closing day. First things first is going to be the earnest deposit. That is the amount and deadline are written into the purchase agreement. Generally, it's within 48 hours after the contract is accepted. So that's 2 days. So you've got get an offer accepted on Friday. I would say Monday we'll give you that extra day, because title company's going to be closed on Saturday and Sunday. But if you get it closed, you get that offer accepted on Tuesday, you've got until Thursday to get that earnest deposit in. And whatever that amount is generally 1% of your purchase price. And then you're going to have to pay that to the title company. And that is holding, basically, it shows the seller that the buyer is serious, usually delivered shortly after acceptance. Okay. You take it to the title company. We're not giving that to the realtor. In most cases, we're giving it to the title company. So that secures it. Next would be inspections. If you've, it's time to learn about the home's condition. That's what the inspection is for. If you've negotiated an inspection, if you've added that contingency and has been accepted, which generally is going to be, then that's what the next step is, to get that set up, because you've got an inspection period that you've got to get that taken care of. So this is the buyer's opportunity to better understand the home's condition, and then you get to decide whether you want to move forward or request repairs, depending on the terms of the contract. Okay, so just understand that not every issue is a deal breaker. Okay, some things about as you're going through your walkthrough, as you're going through your showing, and that you may want to ask them to take care of this, but you can live without them taking care of it. I still want the home, but for the price that they're asking, I think they should do this or that. And so you've got a certain amount of time, which is generally 14 days, to present that resolution, we call it. And then the seller gets a chance to respond in that way. So once that's taken care of, okay, you've got your inspection, you've gone through the period, you've asked the seller to take care of things, they responded, whether they are going to do it or not, and now you're both in agreement, we're moving forward. Okay, so you've gone through your loan process. And the next step would be, you're going to have to do the bank, if you're taking out a loan, they're going to want to do an appraisal. So the lender wants to confirm the value. Okay. So sometimes it comes in exactly as expected. Okay. It hits your purchase price. It's not under, and then everybody's happy and we're moving forward towards closing. We're cleared to close. Sometimes it doesn't go as expected. Some additional conversations are needed. If the value comes in lower than expected, buyers and sellers may need to have another conversation before moving forward. Okay, this home didn't appraise. I've seen appraisals come where, sometimes they'll say it's going to be appraised, but the seller needs to take care of a few things before. Sometimes they'll give a value and say, if you were to not do that, we'll appraise it for a lower amount. I've seen that, where it's the $5,000 difference between whether you're going to restain that deck within 5 days before closing, or we'll appraise it for $5,000 less dollars, so you can save that money and not do it. But then again, you're going to have to renegotiate with the buyer, because the buyer is kind of expecting that done now. And so it's just a situation where sometimes the appraisals come in great, sometimes they don't. I've seen them both. And then next step will be the final loan approval. And that means you're clear to close. And that's when people start to pop bottles a little bit. But I would personally don't celebrate until it actually closes. At the same time, we celebrate every step along the way, because every step along the journey is a success. So I say make sure you're celebrating. But an accepted offer is basically not the finish line. It's the beginning of getting to the closing table. So when we come back, I want to talk about why communication becomes so important once you're under contract, because you can't just, we've been seeing each other, and I'm talking about the agent and the buyer. You've been seeing each other for so long, and all these times and all these days and all these showings. And sometimes once you get that thing under contract, you feel like, now I can breathe. And, you kind of ghost each other for a little bit, but that is not necessarily the way to go. You definitely want to continue with that communication and make sure that, what to expect, because it does, it can become a lot of things to get to that finish line. And, we've seen closing, some you can get them done in 2 weeks and things are moving at a pretty quick pace if you got a 2-week close. If you got 30 days, things tend to drag out, but there's always something happening every week. There's something going along. There's a step along the way. So let's see what we got coming up here. We'll play another song here and then we'll be right back. Let's see where we're going to go.
You took me high, never too many times. Baby, I'm just a man. I'm just a man. Forget about you. Running around with your friends now. Taking pieces of my soul.
Real estate show with Carl Griffin, Realtor. All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show, Carl Griffin, Realtor. I think that is a little glimpse of the next song I think I'm going to play. With that being said, that is The Door by Teddy Swims. I think everyone has heard of Teddy, and I like Teddy Swims. Let me just leave it at that. But again, we're talking about getting to the closing table and getting keys to those doors. So I think that's a good segue into the next segment, the deep dive. We'll stay on track as far as we're talking about staying on track, getting to the closing table after you've got the home under contract. Okay. So once you're under contract, there are a lot of moving pieces, and that's for buyers, sellers, lenders, title, inspectors, everyone has a role, whether it's the client or the agent, the realtor. We all have got to play a part. So that's why I think the first thing, most important thing, is communication. We got to make sure that questions get answered quickly. We don't want things lingering. If you're, in the process and you have questions, you definitely want to reach out and don't let them build up. You want to be able to get those things answered quickly because there are deadlines and we have to meet them. Or there could be problems with the contract. You could be in something that you didn't want to be in, or you could have agreed to something you don't necessarily want simply because you missed a deadline. And now we've got issues because there's inspection periods. It's generally going to be 18 total days. So you've got 14 days as a buyer to get that back to, to get some kind of resolution to the seller to say, hey, these are the things I want you to do. Just know if you take all 14 days, they've only got 4 days to get their response back because it's 18 total days. Okay. So if you've got, your response back within 5 days, they've got a little bit of time. And so you might want to write that into the contract that they only take 4 days, so there's ways to go around that. But at the same time, just know that there's inspection periods, financing dates, your lender's going to be asking you for things. They're going to need some documentation because we're trying to get to the closing date. And so if things have to be done within a certain period, if you're a buyer, you've got to sign some paperwork within 3 days of closing. And so you've got to be on top of that. So closing dates, we want to meet that date. We don't want to have any delays. Although, you can have extensions. So just know that if you do have any kind of delays, extensions happen because, you have to have patience. That's one thing that I think comes along throughout the process that I've learned. I can be very impatient, but I think overall I have a lot of patience because I know that things don't always happen the way we want them to, but that doesn't mean they're not going to happen. So, just be patient because not every transaction is perfectly smooth. If you've known me or if you know me over time, not a whole lot of transactions are going to go smooth. I feel like there's always some kind of hiccup. There's always something, that needs to be taken care of. There's something that's just out of the ordinary. And that's just how things have always gone, whether it's real estate or anything else. So basically I'm able to meet challenges and because I understand that there are going to be challenges. So it's more goes to being prepared. So closing day, after all that preparation, it's finally time to sign the paperwork. And then we get to hand you over the keys. And, that is a gratifying thing for both the buyer and a seller because then you're getting paid. Okay. And for an agent and as a realtor, it's no greater feeling than to supply those keys and say, hey, you just bought a home. And especially if the person is happy with the home, they're happy with what they paid, they're happy with what their mortgage is going to be, and they're happy with moving to the next step of their life as a homeowner. So the goal isn't simply getting under contract. It's getting to the closing table. That's the most important thing. So we can celebrate, when we get a home under contract. I will always say, it's worth taking a shot or two if you take shots. But again, just know that, we're still not celebrating too much because we got to get it to the closing table because I've seen people back out on both sides, whether a buyer back out or a seller. As a selling agent, having buyers back out, it's not a good time for anybody, but it happens. And that's just something we deal with. Like I said, we adjust to challenges and we deal with them head on. And that's what we're good at. So most transactions, I will say again, have a few bumps along the way, but with good communication, realistic expectations, buyers and sellers usually reach the finish line together. So we're going to play one more song here and then take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap everything up and bring the conversation together and let you get on about this beautiful Saturday. Right. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show with Carl Griffin, Realtor. And I am your host. I'm Carl Griffin. I'm a realtor with BHHS Ambassador Real Estate. That is Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And I am on a team called MRG Realty Group. If you need any help or any assistance with real estate here in the local area, I am licensed in the state of Nebraska. And you can reach me at 402-415-1333. Feel free to call or text anytime. And also, if you're looking for me on social media, would be Carl Griffin, Realtor, BHHSAMB. Not hard to find at all. But if you have any issues connecting, be sure to reach out and someone will be able to get you connected to me. Love taking referrals, love helping people. So be sure to get with me and we can talk about real estate like we're doing here. That was Never Can Say Goodbye. That's the Jackson 5. That's really young Michael. I always say I can't think of too many prettier voices than young Michael Jackson. It's just a special thing. And obviously he still had a great voice as he got older, but there's just something about young Michael that always, brings something out of me. So appreciate you listening to that. And let's go ahead and finish this up here. We've got a few minutes left. I appreciate anyone who's listening to the show. Every week we'll be here Saturday, 11 and 12. Waking up in the morning, we're drinking coffee, talking about real estate, and I can't think of too many better ways to start the day on a good Saturday. So let's do that every week, and hopefully you'll be here next week, and I'll be here, and we can make this an ongoing thing. Again, this is something that is going to be consistent, so it's not just a short-term thing. So if we're never not here on a Saturday, be sure rest assured that we'll be coming back next week. So again, interviews coming soon. I ain't saying coming soon because I've been promising it, but it's just a matter of lining it up. So if they, this show is going to have interviews. We're going to have some lenders, title professionals, contractors, current and future homeowners, community voices. So if you would love to get on and tell your story, your home ownership story, if you've got any interesting things that happened during an inspection or, closing or after closing or anything like that, feel free to reach out and we can get a short interview on here. If you've got a business that you'd want to promote, open to that too. We can get on here and talk about it. And especially if it's got anything to do with real estate, that'd be even better. But I'm sure that, like I said, everything to me ties into real estate some kind of way. So we can always make that work. So speaking of sponsors, I do accept sponsors. So if you feel like that'd be a benefit for you and your business to have me on here every week talking about your business, then we can work something out. We can work out, how that's going to go. If you want to promote yourself on the station outside of this show, let me know that too, and may be able to get you connected with William and get some, some interesting ideas that he's got, and we can work some things out. Let's just put it that way. So I've got an affiliated services directory. So if anyone needs help, you need any contractors, reach out. And I've got some good connections, some people that can do a lot of amazing things or just a lot of normal things in amazing ways, because, there's a lot of people that are doing great business and great work around that you may not have heard about. And then a lot of times we don't have these things in our Rolodex, because we never need them until we need them. So if you need something, don't hesitate to reach out and say, do you know anybody that can do this? Because there's a lot in that directory. I think it's a good way to help clients first and foremost, and we can help each other that way. If you want to have your business included in that directory, we can hold each other accountable that way by making sure that we provide good service, to the people that we refer each other to. Okay, because I want to get referrals from you, and obviously when your business services are needed, I'm going to refer you to my clients. So again, buying a home isn't just one decision. Let me say, it's a series of important steps. All right. And understanding these steps helps buyers feel more confident and helps sellers know what to expect. That's just one more reason knowledge matters. And so we want to make sure that we know what's going to happen after we get that home under contract. Okay. Because there's steps that you have to take to submit an offer, to be ready to submit an offer, because you've got to have that pre-approval letter to go with it, unless you're paying cash. Of course, if you're an investor, you've got to have that proof of funds letter to go with the offer. So we've got to be prepared to go. We got to be ready to go. And then once we do get that offer accepted, that's a great feeling, especially if you were in competition and your offer was chosen over someone else's. Been on both sides of that. So it sucks for the person that doesn't get it if they really, really wanted it. And then when you get it, you still have to make sure that we get the closing date. We still have to make sure we're doing what we need to do. And so the question I'm going to leave here with this week is, if you've ever bought a home, what part of the process surprised you the most? Was it the inspection? Was it the appraisal, the paperwork, closing day, or something else? Again, let me run that back. If you've ever bought a home, what part of the process surprised you the most? Was it the inspection, the appraisal, the paperwork, closing day, or something else? Again, thank you again. You can reach out. You can submit a question. You can submit answers here in the comment section. You can always reach out to me directly. Again, that number is 402-415-1333. I'm Carl Griffin, Realtor. And you can contact me that way. And that's whether you're a homeowner, future seller, or still deciding. I'd love to hear from I love to hear your perspective, and I love to hear from you again. Facebook, Instagram, text, email, whatever it is. You got the number 402-415-1333. And let me just end with this. Let me close with this. Buying a home doesn't end when the offer is accepted. Okay, that's where the journey really begins. A home can be an investment. It can build equity. It can create opportunities. But for many people, it's where life happens. Okay, that's where memories are made, families grow, and futures are built. One last time, I'm Carl Griffin, Realtor with MRG, VHHS, Ambassador Real Estate, and I help buyers and sellers make clear, confident real estate decisions. That's here in Omaha and the surrounding areas. And if you need help, reach out anytime. Thank you again for listening, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'll see you next week.
We ever really go to sleep, 'cause we know